Hello, my name is Jorge Weisz. I'm a picture editor. I consider myself a creative through the tools that I have as an editor, but basically I'm a storyteller. What attracted me to editing was the fact that I always been since I was a kid in love with film. And when I went to film school, my intention was to be a cinematographer. And as I graduated, then I moved to the union and started to be a camera assistant. But I felt disenchanted once I started working with that. I realized that it wasn't going to be through the behind the lens. It was going to be through something else. And I started doing some editing on the side, and I fell in love with the magic of editing is where everything comes together. That the power of editing really, that's where you do the last draft of the script. That's where you put all the performances together. That's where you give rhythm, tone, and it's absolutely magical. And every project, even though you're using the same skills, every project is different. So it's a constant challenge. Well, a challenge is always to be able to adapt. And that's kind of like a key thing you have to do as an editor. You have to be constantly adapting. You have to adapt to the personality of the director. Each director is their own world. And as an editor, I need to facilitate and enhance that vision and make it the best as possible. So the challenge is to let go of my ego and be able to be flexible, to be able to work together. If I attach too much to my ideas, then it's a clash, and then the creative process doesn't work. The second challenge is sometimes performances. In every project, I always have a challenge here and there with certain performances, and at the end of the day, you just have to make it work. You're the fixer. You just have to come, have all these issues, and okay, how can you make it work? How can you make it engaging? How can you make it emotionally interesting? And when you make it happen, when you actually succeed, it's the best. It's very, very common to get into creative blocks. Basically, it happens every project. And that is because after a while, you get too close to the material. You've been working with this same material for months. So there's a moment when you cannot see clear. It's too close to you. So it is really important to have test screenings, to have fresh eyes come into the room. I have other editor friends that I really trust their opinion, that I invite to my room and say, like, what do you think? What can you say? And that's one of the reasons for example, at the beginning of the process, I don't go to set when the footage is being filmed. I try to keep that distance, because when the director comes to work with me, they're so close to the actors, to the footage, to everything, that they already lost that distance. And I'm the person who has the fresh eyes. No, I don't trust in formulas, because then by repeating formulas, I feel you lose some honesty in the process. I focus on what emotionally is happening in each scene. That's kind of like my formula is like, I go to the core of the scene and say, okay, what is emotionally happening here? But if I start using a formula, then the work becomes predictable. Then the characters feel cookie cutter, and that's kind of like the opposite of what I want to do. That's why I like to work in different genres. So I like to work, for example, my last project was a drama. Now I'm working on a thriller. I've done comedy. So I like to keep jumping, because I like to keep challenging myself, because if I get too used to like a style, then I get too comfortable. And that's a very dangerous place to be, when you're like very cozy and comfortable, and then you're just working on an automatic pilot. So I always want to be challenged and be in a place where I might not have the answers. Yeah, I think it's just like practice makes perfect. I remember maybe when I was starting, I was probably doing these things of just following maybe some formulas. But then I think as I kept working more, I realized like it's better to take risks. If I take a risk and it works, then and I emotionally feel what's happening, the audience will feel the same. And screwing up, and then just you'll watch it and say, okay, this is awful. Now let's fix it. Or this is not believable. How can we make this engaging?